Afternoon. You're tuning into the Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session. It is February 3rd, 2022. It is 3:37 p.m. This is a virtual meeting. For public attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel or join by calling 360-252-9020, PIN number 1234. I am Carolina Mejia, Chair of the Board. I am joined by Vice Chair Ty Menser via Zoom. In the boardroom, Commissioner Gary Edwards, as well as County Manager Ramiro Chavez. In Zoom, joining us is Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, as well as Prosecutor John Thunheim, Director of Public Defense Patrick O'Connor, and the Director of Information Technology Dennis Osorio, as well as other staff members. Today we are reviewing Vernal Technologies eProsecutor and eDefender project update. Ramiro, I'll hand this off to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is, at least for me, a long time coming. You heard about this particular application. It appears to be at the beginning a unique effort between the Office of the Prosecutor Attorney's Office as well as the Office of Public Defense as to how they can combine a single system that can help them go through this process. It was a long journey as far as I'm concerned. It took a little time to develop the business needs and going through the implementation process. And here we are. I think you will hear from Prosecutor Thunheim as well as from Patrick. Some of the key elements this particular application has brought to their offices and is streamlining, at least from my point of view, how they conduct their business. So who's going to take the lead?
I can kick it off, Ramiro. Dennis Osorio, IT Director. Courtney, would you be able to share your slide deck? So we just want to give a little bit of background on the project. As Ramiro stated, it's eDefender and eProsecutor. This is one of our first large applications that we actually seen all the way through. We went live towards the end of last year. I'm still working out a couple kinks, but as you know, you've heard of many of these large applications, and this is a big milestone for us. The only other one besides this was the court video system, which was a lot of hardware. This one is a real software-driven solution. And with that, I'd like to really turn it over to Courtney. She's our project manager, IT project manager, and kind of oversaw this whole project. And she can kind of go through the scope, the timeline, and turn it over to the stakeholders, and you can get the impact on the business.
Thanks, Dennis. Okay, so for the agenda, like Dennis said, we're just going to cover the project scope, implementation, and then eProsecutor and eDefender will have a chance to go through their experience in the project. So for the scope, at the highest level was really to replace the old Damien system. This included configuration and implementation of the solution, train the trainer methodology, where the experts from JTI really did a knowledge transfer to our team and our super users to then give us the ability to have the appropriate knowledge of the system and then train that down to additional staff, along with the interface development to the existing systems. Our timeline, we were able to mostly wrap up in about 9 months. We kicked this off in January of last year, and the kickoff really lasted about 3 months, that phase of it, along with the case structure. So during that, we gathered a lot of information. We worked really, really closely with JTI and both the prosecuting attorney's office and public defense to make sure that we had everything that we needed to properly configure the system and get ready for the next phase. So the next phase of the project was really the process engineering and configuration of what we learned from the first phase. We worked on the current state processes, did some gap analysis to determine what the future state would look like. And then we also did a lot of document creation to make sure that the business would be supported once it was completely handed over. In Q3, we really kicked off data conversion and we went live. So this was a really big deal for our teams. There were some things that we needed to fine tune and kind of worked through those as we got going. But for the most part, I would say that everything was very, very successful. The team seems to be really happy with the solution that has been provided. And now we're really just in the post-implementation phase and at a high level working through the remaining interfaces.
And real quick, just to touch on that timeline, this is the project when we're in the meat of it. I would say there's an additional prior to this 12 to 24 months. Patrick and John could probably talk about that we are looking through RFPs, looking through trying to find a single solution that meets everyone's needs. Numerous conversations, seeing what pieces we could fit together. So there's a lot of prep work that goes into just getting to this point.
And I will pass it over to John and Patrick.
Claire is now joining the conference.
Thank you. John, do you want to kick it off? Or?
Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Commissioners. Patrick O'Connor, Public Defense, and just to piggyback on where Courtney left off, and something that Dennis touched on is this has been a very long endeavor for the county and for both John and my office. And Dennis is correct that the Q1 is predated by many months. In fact, probably actually more than 2 or 3 years worth of work to get to this point where we're at today, which is live and in production as of last year. With any project this size and scale and scope, it certainly can appear overwhelming, and it did, at least for me early on. But I really appreciate the support of Courtney, who's project managed this and done an outstanding job on behalf of the county and our offices, and in keeping the vendor on time and on task, and then also building, the implementation team necessary to pull this off. Certainly, it's taken a lot of people hours on both.
Hey, Patrick, give me a second, please.
Sure.
Excuse me, for those members of the public who have joined us via conference call, could you please mute your phone? Good afternoon. For those members of the public who have joined us via conference call, please mute your phones or I will disconnect you. Go ahead. Sorry.
No worries. So yeah, getting back to the amount of effort, I think on both offices to get to this point has been a tremendous. Very proud of certainly our team. I'm sure John is as well, of his hundreds of hours of staff time to get to where we're at today. Which, what I can say so far is, at least for our office, part of our strategic plan for 2022 is to continue to implement eDefender. We've had a successful launch, as Courtney mentioned, which it's an astronomical amount of data had to convert from the Damien system into eDefender. We had some bumps as to be expected, but overall, I think things went really smoothly. Staff are continuing to get used to the system, but at this point, some of the big takeaways that I can share, and I'm sure John has his own, and I'm happy I actually have set up today if commissioners, you'd like to take a quick look at what the system looks like. I thought that might be fun, so you can actually see it. But really, it's better government. I mean, the theme for me has been so far is better government with efficiencies in criminal justice, which sometimes the criminal justice system isn't associated with efficiencies, but the takeaway and feedback from my staff, even in this short amount of time that it's been stood up and in production, has greatly reduced sort of wasted time, to be frank, in old legacy processes, right, of how the criminal justice system, worked, exchanged documents, just did the daily duties of the criminal justice system. So I'm really happy and proud that, and grateful to the board for this investment, because it really is, just better government and better criminal justice. We're not waiting on things that we used to wait on. The exchange of information between the two systems is unique. This is a unique partnership, and I've thanked John in the past, and I'll thank him again for this partnership, because at the end of the day, it is just better government and better law and justice. So, John, I'll let you pick it up from there, and then, I'm happy to sort of share what the system briefly looks like if the board's interested to actually see what it looks like. John?
I think that's a great idea, Patrick. I'm glad you thought of that. I won't say too much more because you've heard it. I'm going to express my thanks to Patrick as well. This has been a collaboration all along to try to find a system that could really help the prosecutor's office and the public defender's office work together more efficiently on the things that we do, like exchange discovery. We process literally thousands of pages of discovery a week that are going back and back. Well, they're going from our office to his office. When the history of this, I think that I just want to share this because it tells you what this means to me in terms of achieving this. When I took office in 2011, what two of my goals were to upgrade our case management system, which at the time was Damien. And the second one was to get the office paperless because we were still operating with paper files. The upgrade to Damien was just never coming, right? We waited a long time. And we finally got to the point where it's like, okay, we've got to go to something new and completely different, which started this project. Well, with the implementation now of eProsecutor, both of those goals are checked. The prosecutor's office is completely paperless in terms of our case files, our discovery management, all of those historically paper-driven operations. And we now have a case management system that is state-of-the-art. The Go Live project as a part of this was bumpy, and there was some major hurdles that we had to overcome. And the teams on both sides, public defense and my office, I couldn't be prouder of them. They came together, they figured it out. The discovery system was not working when we went live, and that was a huge issue, but that got sorted out relatively quickly. And we're continuing to work out the final bugs, if you will. The next thing we're going to be turning to with this is data. My one disappointment in this project, just to be candid, is that I don't feel like JTI gave us much to work with in terms of how to get data out of our system. And so we'll be trying to work with them and having some people get specifically trained to do that. That's one of our next big goals. The other is to implement a position that you authorized in the budget this year for us, a business application specialist that will be our subject matter expert for eProsecutor and our other software platforms. And the role of that person will be kind of continuous process improvement in terms of how we use eProsecutor to make ourselves better. And I'm really excited about the ability to do that. So I appreciate the board's support in this. It's a couple of major goals, as I said, that we've achieved. And I think there's just lots to be done, lots of potential that we can do in the future with this tool.
Courtney, can you stop sharing your screen, please? Thank you.
Real quick, before you share your screen, Patrick, just as the IT director, there's no sensitive data that will be shown, correct? Just want to make
Correct.
sure that we don't pull up anybody's case file that's not supposed to be shown or anything like that.
No, you will be looking at a very famous case in our office called Jimbo Test. And Jimbo,
Okay, perfect.
Mr.
Good.
Test is.
I just had to do my due diligence there.
Good job, IT director.
I too, Dennis, share confidentiality concerns, but just to piggyback up a couple of things that John mentioned, and then I'm happy to show you what I can, is, we still have some iterations of the process and the project. One of the big ones really is file retention. As John mentioned, we have just a massive amount of obviously criminal justice records, and working with IT, that Laserfish will continue to be the receptacle for file retention for both, I think, John, in both my office. We have obligations, statutory and rules of professional conduct obligations to retain these records for, many years after the criminal case is closed. So those two systems will be working together when a criminal case is closed within eDefender or eProsecutor. Then that record retention will then be stored in Laserfish, and I think we'll cross that bridge at some point this year. So yeah, I'm happy to. I know we've got a little bit of time left, but I mean, do the commissioners have any questions, or would you like me to show you the system just briefly? I'm open for any suggestions.
I would love to see the system myself, but I'll pass it on to the
Okay.
commissioners. Commissioner Edwards, comments, questions?
No, I really don't. I think both prosecutor's office and public defense are gonna work together to get something accomplished, so I'm with you. But I do have a hard stop that I'm gonna have to leave at 4, so just so you know.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Menser?
Patrick, yeah, I think it'd be good to see it. I think you've shown me like at least a piece, one of our meetings, but we've got public paying attention, and it shouldn't take too long to just take a look.
Okay, great. I'm happy to just go ahead and share my screen and again show you what is a dummy test case. This is not a real case, but this is what a case looks like, at least in our system. And I think John's system sort of, mirrors it, but they have their own, setups. But for us, this is what a new active case looks like in eDefender, where historically a case would have looked like this. So us, as John mentioned, our office is now completely paperless as well. But this is a typical case file, and sort of the preview of, obviously it has multiple tabs associated with this tab, but this is a summary of that case. And obviously the system has the ability to search any case within the system, and I won't go over that, but just wanted to show you what, what this system looks like as opposed to a paper file. We have, identified individuals, whether it's a client, a victim, a witness, various justice personnel who's assigned to cases both on both sides, and then professional staff that are involved in the case, any expert witnesses that may be in a case, a custody status of an individual. And you'll see up here at the top, the system has the ability to set all kind of different flags and identifiers for certain cases. And you see here we have some flags, and I'm sure John, I know, does too in his system, that we can early identify a client if they're a veteran or they're in veterans court, or just a whole multitude of designations within the criminal justice system that now we can flag and are easily identified in the case. Seems like a small thing, but it's a really big thing and a big change. Probably one of the biggest things that, as John mentioned, that we've seen of an improvement is just the exchange of discovery. So the discovery information that law enforcement provide to John's office and then is shared with us now comes through the system, I would say at this point, seamlessly. And that's into an electronic file cabinet. So what would traditionally be in the corner of an attorney's office is now available here on this tab. And so this is just, again, these are all dummy documents for the record. But what would be contained in the e-file cabinet in both systems is all the discovery for the case. So as you can imagine, it's a tremendous amount of data. But when John's office has a piece of discovery for this Jimbo test case, they send it to our office through the e-file cabinet system within both systems, and we have immediate access to it. Whereas traditionally, that wouldn't have been the case. So I would echo John, probably right now, that is just a sea change of culture. And again, getting back to at least my overall, goal and impression at this point is it's just better government, because it's just so much more efficient to get information like that. And attorneys and staff work exclusively within the case, taking case notes right here in the system, all which is documented. And one of the biggest things, at least from my office, and John, I'll give you some time to share, is accessibility to files, right? So we can set and have set parameters and limitations, but also opened up access to any case file in the office for our teams. So we're not looking for physical files anymore to find the information that another team partner needed. they have access to that information right in the system, which again, just is an incredible efficiency. So this is just sort of the look and feel. I won't go through all the other features of the system, but needless to say, not only have we recognized tremendous efficiencies so far, but again, this is, at least from our perspective, is still going to take the rest of 22 to fully implement, and frankly, probably beyond 2022 to continue to improve the system. One thing that's nice, and I'll stop sharing my screen now because I think I've accomplished what I was hoping to do, is just give you a quick look at what it looks like. But at least from my perspective, this system is going to continue to evolve. And one thing that's nice is the JTI team has what's called an auxiliary database, right? So it's sort of a dummy system that looks exactly like this system, but when we have problems or upgrades or fixes, they can fix those in the auxiliary system without shutting down the main system, make the changes, and then put it into the production of the live system. So we're not, hopefully, having a lot of downtime, right? So the system goes down. One of the potential negatives is if the system goes down and we're all working and relying on it, then we're all out of business until it comes back up. So we've had a couple of those, but so far, but nothing too extended. So John, if you might have some final comments here before I know we're up against it.
Well, I would say that the look and feel that you saw there is exactly the same as the prosecutors. Our look and feel of the system's very similar. We have a little bit different naming, naming norms and so forth. But just for everybody to know, one of the those flags on the top of the file, they're the colored flags that were across the top. On our system, one of those colored flags says COVID backlog. And that's how we can track COVID back. I see Robin is pleased with that.
Awesome.
That's how we can track those cases that fall into that category of backlog for ARPA funding purposes. So I just thought I'd add that, and that's how we've already started to adapt and use the system to do what we needed to do.
I'd show you, Jimbo test isn't a backlog case, but we'll have a COVID flag too.
And I see Commissioner Edwards and Robin's head. Commissioner Edwards, go ahead.
Okay, I gotta go here in a minute, but I'm just wondering from a security standpoint, like in-camera hearings and different things like that, how do you handle all that and keep it all separate? No problems? I don't know if that's.
We don't, yeah, we haven't had any issues at all. Our lawyers now, because they have laptops and they carry it into the courtroom, they can have access to any of their files from within the courtroom. We haven't had any security concerns at all. And so from our standpoint now, it looks good and perhaps even better than the prior system we had before.
Yeah, I'd echo that, Commissioner. We haven't run into any issues yet. I think they've done a good job of identifying all potential, potential breaches. But there's always risk, right? You can't have zero risk, but feel pretty confident that it's a safe system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Robin?
I just wanted to say that, I think it's been maybe 10 years ago that John and I were talking about the need for an updated system that would fit for both the prosecutor and the public defense office. And so it's been a long time coming, but it's really exciting to see that it's installed and working, and I hope that it's everything that both offices need it to be. But it's really great to see it. It took a long time, but we finally got there.
Oh, great. Okay. Commissioner Menser, any last words? We're good? Okay. Go ahead, County Manager.
So I know this has taken, this is a very successful project, and it has taken what I call a village really to get us to this point. And this is a very, at least from what I know, very unique circumstances in which the prosecutor and the public defender have worked on a joint project. Because at the beginning, we were looking at two different systems. So I appreciate the willingness of looking holistic in terms of the process of the system. But also, I'd like to give credit how well this project was managed. So I'd like to send kudos to Courtney and Sherry, because really managing this very complex project to get to a good, successful conclusion is really an effort. So thank you to Courtney, Sherry, and obviously Dennis, John, and Patrick.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Okay.